Alright, this is the first assignment. It's called Innocence Project and Serial Podcast. So this is the actual organization that works with serial podcasts to give people who have been possibly wrongly convicted a second chance. So you're just going to go to the website, click About. I'll show you. Go here. Innocence Project. Oh, goodness. Click About. And you can see the Innocence Project, founded in 1992 by Peter Neufeld and Barry Scheck at Cardozo School of Law, exonerates the wrongly convicted through DNA testing and reforms the criminal justice system to prevent future injustice. So you're just going to go through here, click the links, read through, and get an idea of what this project is all about. So click on About, click on Cases. Next, you're gonna go back up here, see, click on cases. And you're gonna see all cases. So as you can see, the internet is not really being very fast today because everybody in the world is probably on the internet. It's fine though. So you're just gonna click on one of these profiles, whoever you want, and you're gonna read the profile. Oh, I clicked on Malcolm Alexander, served 38 years in Louisiana, charged with aggravated rape, sexual assault, sentenced to life without parole. Served 38 years. So this is a guy who was wrongly convicted of these crimes, and this project worked to give him a second chance. So it says, ineffective trial lawyer and flawed eyewitness identification procedure destroyed the lives of Malcolm Alexander and his family for 38 years. He is the Innocence Project's longest-serving exonerated client. So you can read through this and it'll explain what happened to him, what he was accused of, how they proved he was innocent. Boom. Go back, click on one of the profiles and read it, figure out what it's all about. Then you're going to click on this link. Oh, this is the same project, the same organization, Innocence Project, but it's all about Adnan. And oh, see, it even says focus of the hit podcast serial about everything that he's been going through or that he went through and how this organization is trying to help him. You're going to go back here. Well, after you read through these things, you're going to write 5 to 8 sentences explaining the following. So you're going to explain your own words the mission of the Innocence Project, what they are, who they are, what they're trying to achieve. You're going to summarize the profile you have read. Who is this person? What was he or she wrongly convicted of doing? So I chose Malcolm Alexander. So I would write about him and what he or didn't do. And just write a little response why this project matters and how they're changing lives, helping people. All right, the next thing I just want to take a look at this one really fast. This is a handout you should have, but I can put it on Google Classroom if you lost it. So what we're doing here is this is the summative of the serial podcast unit I was talking about. This is our mock trial. So the objective or goal is to analyze a sequence of events, analyze text evidence presented in podcast through discussion. So, the narrator of the podcast, Sarah Koenig, presents a lot of information that even the courts did not have during the time of the trial. This is a great deal of information to sort through and evaluate. The purpose of this discussion is to evaluate and analyze the arguments and evidence presented in the podcast once again and decide which are the most convincing to you for the purposes of winning the debate. So it is a lot of information to sort through, and that's why we've been kind of tracking data as we go. But for this trial, you will play the role of a character from Serial Podcast. We already chose our roles. That's what you signed up for, your character you want to be in the trial. Some of the characters are going to be easier to play than others. So if you chose a very minor character who only has one or two lines, or we don't know very much about them, I would recommend maybe switching to a more major character that has a lot to say and has a lot more clear motives, if that's possible, just because it'll be easier for you to prepare for this assignment, and also I think we'll have a better discussion. But that's up to you. This will be a discussion that helps walk our class through the sequence of events and evidence presented by various witnesses throughout the serial podcast. We're going to evaluate the facts of what we know happened or didn't actually happen before, during, and after, and we will take a closer look at the evidence we have heard about but not closely looked at regarding Hae Min Lee's murder. All that, the forms and data on the serial podcast website, the phone records and the cell phone towers and the notes back and forth, all that stuff is on there. So I highly recommend taking a look at that stuff if you can. So this is just a little description how it's going to go down. So when we have our summative, facilitator, this is probably going to be me. I'll give all the characters an opportunity to introduce themselves and give their statement on whether they believe Adnan is guilty or not guilty and why. So individuals will be in character right away when this discussion starts. So for example, as soon as you come into the room, if you're playing the role of Adnan, you should be speaking and acting as if you are Adnan. I'll allow characters to ask one another questions. So your character will have prepared questions to ask the other characters that most threaten your statement or credibility on whether you believe Adnan is guilty or not guilty. You really need to think about your character and what your character's specific motives are. For example, if you're Adnan, you're definitely going to want to prepare a question or two for Jay. So Jay is your biggest enemy in this. If you are Asia, you want to be asking questions to help prove that Adnan is innocent. So you need to think about which character you're going to be, what their motives are, what they're trying to do, and build your case around that. So those are the kind of questions you're going to be wanting to ask other people. You're going to want to find holes in their logic and point it out. I'll have questions for characters in general, and we'll decide if Adnan is guilty or innocent. Due date. This is wrong. You can just disregard this. I'm not sure when our summative is going to be pending our return to school on the 30th. So I would say, assuming we come back on this day, our summative is probably going to be on the 31st, Tuesday, tentatively. And if we're not back in school for any reason on this Tuesday, then we'll have to do it online. All right. Well, this is what I want you to start thinking about. This isn't due tomorrow, not due on Monday, but we're 5 episodes into the podcast. I want you to start filling this out the best you can. So according to your character, is Adnan guilty or innocent? Again, if you picked a very minor character, you might not be able to answer this. This is where you highlight the key points to your character's testimony. Ask yourself, what does everyone have to know about your character's perspective on whether you think Adnan is guilty or innocent? This is key points to your character's testimony. So these are things maybe only your character would know. Or these are, think about why your character is important to the case in the first place. Asia might be important to the case because she claims she saw Adnan in the library. That would be a key point to her testimony. Here I provide 2 most significant pieces of evidence that help support your character's point of view and your explanation for why your character believes Adnan is guilty or innocent. So this is evidence that's helping your case. This is where you're going to attempt to point out holes in the logic of other characters. So if I'm Adnan, I'm going to think of questions or challenges for another character. So as Adnan, my questions are most likely going to be for Jay. Question or challenge requires a piece of text evidence you can refer to. For example, in the interview with the cops, you say, and then you would give Jay's quote right there. Explain why you later changed your statement. Well, this is where you're going to be making your case by kind of interrogating the other characters and asking them to explain themselves. Oh, here's your direct quotes with your follow-up question. This is which character you will be asking, and this is your explanation. How does this question help you establish your own credibility or challenge this character's credibility? So this is in anticipation of what other characters will ask you. So it says, what questions you expect characters will ask you? What challenging questions should you prepare to answer? Think about possible holes in your own statement. So if up here, we're looking for holes in the statement of other characters, this is us planning what others are going to ask us, what holes are in our own story. So if I'm Jay, I'm already anticipating that Adnan is going to ask me about why my story always changes. Well, how will I address this? So Adnan going to ask me why I keep changing my story. We'll address it by saying whatever my excuse is. So this you don't fill out ahead of time. This is where you'll take notes during the actual discussion. That's it. So begin thinking about this, filling it out. Decide now if you want to change your character or not, if you want to go with a more major character. This is a summative graded discussion, so it's up to you. We're gonna hopefully tentatively plan for this day, Tuesday the 31st. Be prepared, and that's it.